A very good morning to all my dear friends. I am Prashant Mavani. I hope you all are doing good. Today is 18th June 2020. Day is Thursday. I would like to start today's discussion with this quote by Abraham Lincoln. I never had a policy. I have just tried to do my very best each and every day. Just self-improvement. Whatever you are doing, try to increase 1%, maybe 0.1%. Right? Just a little bit, just a tiny baby step is also very good. If you are improving incrementally, that's okay, because you will never know, after a few months or maybe few years, you will be at the very top of the pyramid, isn't it? With this, dear friends, I would like to introduce all of you to our smart course. Now, StudyIQ team has designed a smart course. This smart course is for Civil Services Examination. It covers both your pre and mains examination. And to find out more about it, all you have to do is download our mobile application. Till 20th June 2020, EMI offer is also available, so make the most out of it. To download the PDF of today's lecture, do check out my Telegram channel. You can follow me on Facebook. Please make sure that you share this lecture with other students. Hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Dear friends, on our table we have 5 important articles. The first one is about Delhi and this partnership between central government or BJP and state government or Union Territory government of Delhi, that is AAP government. So that's a very, you can say, satisfactory news as far as citizens of Delhi are concerned, because it is about our national capital, isn't it? Then disorder at the border, and this one, enemy inside gates. These 2 articles are about LAC, of course, and I have added one news item here. So we'll start with this news item and then we will go through these 2 editorials. One is from Hindustan Times. Then we have one article written by Syed Akbaruddin. I'm not sure how many of you are aware about Syed Akbaruddin. Syed Akbaruddin was spokesperson of Ministry of External Affairs, and then he became a representative of India at United Nations, permanent representative of India at United Nations. So he's talking about multilateralism. So, you know, a person who has been there, he knows in and out about these organizations. So he's talking about it. So very interesting, very important article. And the last one is about maternal health matter. And after that, we are going to see some news. So let's start our discussion with this article, United Front in Delhi. It's a good news that Amit Shah and Arvind Kejriwal, they are collaborating with each other. They are, they have created a bridge as far as this fight against coronavirus is concerned. And that's a very positive news, because this is not about BJP, this is not about AAP, this is not about Congress, this is not about Gujarat, this is not about Karnataka, this is about humanity, this is about India, this is about the whole world. So this partnership between central government and state government, very reassuring news. And you see, the situation of Delhi is also very bad, isn't it? It's very unusual time, and we have to see, the time is very tough. So we have to take some, and political parties, they have to take some extraordinary measures, and that's what they are doing. So that's quite reassuring. On 4th March 2020, there was just a single case in national capital. 16th June 2020, 44,688 positive cases and 1,837 deaths because of coronavirus in just Delhi. It is also said that by the end of July 2020, Delhi will cross 5.5 lakh cases. So this is going to be very huge. And see, from 44,000, or let's say roughly speaking 50,000, we are from 50,000 in 15th June or 16th June, and by the end of July, so we are talking about what, in a month, or maybe in 45 days, right? 45 days, or maybe 40 days or something, we are going to see like 11 times rise, isn't it? If you say 50,000, then to 5.5 is going to be what, 11 times, 50k into 11, so you'll cross somewhere around 5,50,000 cases. So things are already out of control, and this will be very dangerous. God forbid we don't want to see this figure in Delhi, but just imagine if 5.5 lakh cases, this is going to be huge. We don't have that much setup. Forget about us. Even Italy and USA, UK, France, etc. These countries are also struggling. They were struggling. They are still struggling. Their hospital facilities, their medical facilities is far better than us. But if their hospitals have reached a breaking point, then you can imagine our situation. On top, we find this sort of things as well in our country, that complaints of denial of patient care, exploitative billing by private hospitals, and underreport cases and deaths have also surfaced. So this is very heartbreaking. We don't want to see this sort of things. And we are still not sure whether community spread is on or off, because there is no thorough investigation, official investigation. But this is a reality as well, that nowadays we find so many cases where you are not aware from where you got this coronavirus. So this is a clear sign of community spread, but we need to do a thorough investigation on this thing. Delhi failed in health infrastructure preparedness. This lockdown period was there to boost up your infrastructure, health infrastructure, but Delhi has failed in this thing. Okay, the good news is that one 6-member advisory committee of eminent experts has been constituted to advise Delhi Disaster Management Authority. I have one question for you. Can you give me the name of the person who is the chairman of Delhi Disaster Management Authority? Chairperson or the head? Right, stick your answer in the comment section. Remember that Delhi government came out with this notification that asymptomatic cases will not be checked, and this was overruled by Lieutenant Governor. Lieutenant Governor has issued a few more orders. Like, one is that if you spit here and there, or if you are throwing your mask, or doing something that you should not do, then Lieutenant Governor has empowered government officials that they can fine 500 to 1,000 rupees on this type of people. And LG office has also clearly, that means Lieutenant Governor's office, has also clearly stated that everything should be done to make sure that there is transparency in functioning of cities' medical facilities. Moving on to next item. Now we are going to start with this news item. Dr. S. Jaishankar, who is foreign minister of our country, he had a word with his counterpart, that means Yang Yi. Yang Yi is the foreign minister of China. So both these leaders, they had a discussion over the phone, of course. And S. Jaishankar has clearly said that this is not acceptable. I'm using my words, but I'm just giving you the meaning of the things that are discussed between these two leaders, or you can say these two countries. Dr. S. Jaishankar has said that back on 6th June 2020, both sides, senior military commanders, they reached an agreement point, and it was decided that they are going to de-escalate and disengage. Both armies are going to disengage and de-escalate at LAC. But then as well, on 15th of this month, that is 15th June 2020, what we find is that you have attacked us. After this 6th June's agreement, China started erecting a structure in Galwan Valley. So Indian side was not happy with this thing, and we thought that because we had this 6th June agreement, we are not going to see any sort of physical brawl. But what they did, they planned it very well. On one side, they were having a chat with us, they were discussing things with us, they were telling us that we are going to de-escalate and disengage, and they executed a meditated and planned action on our Jawans. Dr. Jaishankar stressed that this unprecedented development will have a serious impact on the bilateral relationship. He said the need of the hour was the Chinese side to reassess its actions and take corrective steps. Troops should strictly respect and observe the line of actual control and should not take any unilateral action to alter it, has been said by S. Jaishankar, and this applies to both Indian as well as Chinese army. On your screen, you can see this point here, Galwan Valley. Now, this is not the first time that we are checking out this particular map. I'm sure regular students, you are aware about this map here. So this is the whole, this line, red line that you can see here. This is, as you can see here, this is line of actual control. The length of this line of actual control is, do you know how much it is? 3,488 kilometers. So you can imagine that it is not just few points, right? It is a very long 3,488 kilometer is not a small line. And there are few points where our side, we have upper hand. There are a few points where they have upper hand. So it's all, mix. It's not clear that they have upper hand in each and every point of this 3,488 kilometers. Okay, this is just for your understanding. I'm telling you this thing. Now, unfortunately, we have some 20 Indian soldiers, right, battle casualty, and this is not acceptable at all. At present, it looks like both nations, as countries, we have entered uncharted territory. This has never happened earlier on before. Since 1975, this is the first combat deaths, first such in Galwan Valley since the 1962 war. So these two incidents, these two facts here, first combat deaths in since 1975 and first such in the Galwan Valley since 1962 war, these two facts, this two important point indicates that we have entered uncharted territory. Uncharted territory means that we don't know what's going to be, means we have never reached this point. This is new for China and this is new for India. And it is very important that both nations, they should practice restraint. Both nations should do everything that is possible to make sure that this thing does not, metamorphosize into a sort of war. We don't want to see that situation. The brutality of the clashes, with severe injuries and deaths incurred despite the fact that no shots were fired. Do you know this fact? It was this 20 battle casualties is not because of weapons, right? It is just a sort of physical hand-to-hand combat type of thing that took place here. And I'm going to take you through some battle casualty numbers of China as well. It is said that the latest reports are saying that they have lost 40 soldiers. India has lost 20 soldiers. I'm sure many of us will be feeling a bit happy about this thing, that we have just lost 20 and they have lost 40. But here we are not in a sort of it's not a game. It's not a thing where you compare and the more points, the more soldiers you kill, their soldiers you kill, the more stronger you are. No, it's not like that. We don't want to lose even a single soldier. Just imagine the situation of their family, right? And same thing applies to their soldiers as well. I'm not saying that we should not do anything. If they are doing some aggressive behavior, if they are hitting us, then I'm not saying that we should sit down. Of course, we will give, and that's what Indian Army is all about, right? And or as a matter of fact, any army, they are trained to give befitting reply. So they will give a befitting reply. But the best thing is discussion, right? This is the best. If you have to use weapons, go for it. If you have to use necessary force, go for it. Our Indian Army has been given a sort of free hand by the government. And that's how they work, right? They are always under free hand. It looks like government has given free hand. No. In reality, they have free hand. Decision making, military or combat decision making is totally to military, right? Or Army, Navy, Air Force. They take their decisions. There are a few things where they need government's approval, but most of the time they know what to do, and they know whatever they do, it is best for our country. So that's how it works. Okay. The deaths occurred when the two armies had agreed. As we all know, we talked about this thing in the news item, that both on the one side, both agreed that there will be disengagement and de-escalation, but unfortunately, we saw these battle casualties. The problem is that China now claims sovereignty over entire Galwan Valley. China is saying that this whole Galwan Valley belongs to China, and this is not acceptable. In discussion with S. Jaishankar, Yang Yi has said that India should punish all those Indian soldiers who are responsible to cross LSC. We are crossing LSC. This is just a joke, isn't it? They are crossing LSC, and they are so good in spreading out lies that and they are so comfortable with it. Even their officials, and this is very unfortunate. When someone is lying to you, when someone is not ready to accept reality, then it becomes very difficult to convince them, because their mindset, their whole thinking process is that grab as much as you can. That's what their thinking process is. That's what it looks like. The way they have behaved here. On one side, you are saying that We are going for a discussion. This is lack of professionalism, and this is a clear indication of weakness of their attitude and weakness of their mind, right? This is clearly, isn't it, a person who is not keeping his or her word, a country that is not keeping its word. Can you imagine the quality and nature of that country and diplomacy? So this is very difficult because we behave professionally. We cannot go that much down where they are, right? We cannot go there because we are not them. So it's very challenging when someone would like to stick or play by the rules, and the party with which you are negotiating there's no rules at all. So that's challenging, isn't it? The good news is that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has clearly stated that India will give a befitting reply, and he has also said that the sacrifices of the soldiers would not go in vain. Now what government should do is government should appraise the nation, should provide exact information, knowledge about what's going on here, win the confidence of people of our country, win the confidence of opposition parties, and then do whatever it is required to make sure that even a small inch of land, we cannot, India has clearly stated, and now we are in the second editorial, and first we started with this news item and then editorial, this is the third one. So enemy inside gates, this one is clearly saying that India will not accept anything less than what there was pre-April 2020. So India has said that we need pre-April 2020 status quo, right? You go back where you used to be. We will step back where we used to be, right? And then we can have a thorough discussion. If you are claiming that Galwan Valley belongs to you, then this is not acceptable at all, right? They have ingressed 8 kilometers from Finger 8. And Finger 8 is a place where Chinese troops previously stopped. And they have ingressed 8 kilometers from Finger 8 to Finger 4. Finger 4 is a point where Indian troops previously stopped. And this is the problem. Like, they have crossed 8 kilometers and they are now at Finger 4. A point where I'll try to draw a small sketch for you guys here. So let's say this is F4, Finger 4, and this is Finger 8. Normally Chinese troops used to stay behind this line, right? This was their ultimate line, like a sort of, they never used to cross this. Sometimes they used to cross, but even if they cross, they will go back, And Indian soldiers, you find it here. Now what they have done is they have reached here, and now they are saying that this belongs to them as well. So this is not acceptable. And this reminds us about Kargil war. That's how it all started, right? So we don't want to see a war, and I'm sure China knows this thing very well as well, that if it will try to have a sort of combat with India, then it's not that China will, you never know who's going to win. It's not that China will win for sure. There's no guarantee here. And history, if we go through the history of so many wars like Vietnam and USA war, it's not how big you are or how much you have. It doesn't matter. What's your strategy? Have your tactics, your flexibility, all these things. These are the things that are deciding factor. So if China is thinking like it can bully India, then this is totally a sort of mirage that China is. China is living in a sort of illusion that if it thinks like it can mess around with our country. We are a peace-living country, but that does not mean that we will, you can take us for granted, right? So these are the things that are going on here. Now let's move on to next item, multilateralism post-COVID-19, written by Syed Akbaruddin. Multilateralism has belied the ability to update swiftly, right? To belied the ability to update swiftly basically means that if you want to change something in UN or UNSC or any other institutions, it will take ages. It looks like they are not able to change, but the change is very incremental. The COVID-19 outbreak has placed all international institutions under magnifying glass, and this is right. At present, people are not happy with, or the world is not happy with, WHO, for example, right? And there are other institutions where many countries, they have left these institutions, particularly USA. It has left UNESCO, Human Rights Council in Geneva. This one has been USA has departed from this institution, this HRC and UNESCO. It's also threatening to leave WHO. It has already said that it will not fund WHO anymore. And so the question is, will these organizations or these institutions, can they survive without big countries or countries like USA? If they leave, if they depart, then will these organizations survive? The answer is yes, and there is a reason behind it. The reason is that it is very difficult to delight or satisfy a developed country. Right, for WHO to satisfy USA is a very difficult task, but to delight or satisfy Ghana, to satisfy Angola or Sri Lanka or any other country, it's very easy for WHO. So there are so many tiny, less developed, least developed, developing countries who are happy with WHO, who are happy with UNIDO, who are happy with UNESCO, who are happy with this HRC. So if big countries are living, that this is not a sort of death for these institutions. These institutions have survived and they will survive. Of course, money that was contributed by USA and other countries, a few countries have left various different organizations. So that's going to be a big blow. But as far as surviving is concerned, these organizations are going to survive. Now the question is about China. As we know that if USA will step out from any point or any place, then China will try to fill up that vacuum. But China as well is not, means this is again wrong to imagine that China will replace USA in every single point and China will be successful in whatever it does, right? No, that's not right. China at present is, Chinese nationals are head of 4 multilateral organizations. This is a fact. But they have also failed in their campaigns to head UNESCO and WIPO. China contributes 10% of UN's budget and 14% of peacekeeping budget. Now let me remind you one more point, that China is permanent member of United Nations Security Council. So if they are contributing 14%, then they are not doing anything. They are not doing any sort of favor. This is a price that you have to pay if you want to be there at the high table. One interesting thing about this multilateral bodies is that they are populated by plethora of small and middle states quietly working to restore equilibrium when the balance tends to shift. There are so many people from this small, basically the staff of these multilateral bodies. You find most of the staff is from small and middle states. And whenever there is a sort of pendulum is moving on the other side, they will try to shift the balance. So this is the beauty of this multilateral bodies. Tiny countries are running the show. They are like small ants, but they will, at the end of the day, they will produce a big result. So that's the most important thing. The problem with multilateral architecture is that it gives more emphasis on processes and structures rather than functions and substances. So what that this particular line means, and I want you guys to understand this particular thing, this nature or the structure of this multilateral institution, is that they have their protocols, they have their way of doing things. So the process, let's say you have this process that if you enter raw material here, then it will go to stage 2, stage 3, stage 4 and stage 5. Stage 5 is the result point. So it has to go through all these 4 things and then you reach this 5th point here. So that's how it is and that's how you stick to it. But if there is a way, if there is a way that you can cut down this process, let's say if you can make it 1, 2 and 3, you will get your result here. And so this, if you compare these 2 things and if you get the same quality or better quality, then it is best to follow this, isn't it? This process where you have just 1, 2, 3 steps rather than having 5 steps, because 5 steps is more time consuming, more expensive, etc. But unfortunately, this multilateral architecture, it works in a very slow pace and they give more emphasis on process and structures rather than functions and substances. So introducing change is very difficult. One thing again that Syed Akbaruddin shares with us is that multilateral diplomacy is a place where quantum leaps, you will not find big jumps in this world. In this multilateral diplomatic world, incremental or incrementalism pays dividends, small tiny steps You do a small change or tiny changes. Hardly people will notice this, but you will push it, and then you will find yourself that you are at the very peak, or you have reached where you wanted to reach. So it took some 7 decades for a country like India to beat UK in this international court of justice. There was this election of a judge, and India versus UK was going on. UK is UNSC permanent member, and then as well India was able to beat it. Was a sort of example that incrementalism will pay dividends. It may take a bit of time, but it will pay you dividend. Talk about Masood Azhar, right? It took a decade for us to get him on that list of designated terrorists. So that's how we should work, right? Patiently promote reforms. Moving on to last item, maternal health matters. It's very shocking. It's very unfortunate that a pregnant woman died in an ambulance in Noida after being turned away from a number of private and government hospitals. So when lockdown was announced, what was the plan for pregnant women, right? Millions of women who were or are due for childbirth. What government did about them? Nothing, I think, and they are still suffering. Unfortunately, so many of them have died as well. It took ages for us to reach this figure from 2011 to 13. Back in 2011-13, we were at 167 per 1,000. I'm talking about maternal mortality rate here. So from 167 to 122, it took huge amount of investment of time and efforts and everything. And because of this lockdown, we don't want to lose this. First of all, we don't want to lose even a single mother, right? Even a single lady. We don't want to lose them. And it is our responsibility, government's responsibility, to provide best medical care. And this should be available all across the board. But unfortunately, this thing keeps on going on and on in our country. This is lack of planning, right? This is very, it's pathetic, to be honest, that so many of them are still struggling. This is inhuman. Moving on to news items, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that as I already told you, that befitting reply, and this sacrifice will not go in vain. The Prime Minister and participating Chief Minister stood up and observed a 2-minute silence remembering martyrs of Galwan Valley. Vice President Venkaiah Naidu paid homage. Home Minister Amit Shah expressed pain, and Army Chief General M.M. Narvane said all ranks of Indian soldiers salute the supreme sacrifice of the valiant soldiers at Galwan. Chinese casualty. According to agency reports, the Chinese side suffered 40 casualties, including the dead and seriously injured in face-off at Galwan Valley. Ladakh border situation. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh reviewed Ladakh border situation. Second World War celebration. India is going to send a 75-member tri-service contingent to participate in the military parade in Moscow on the 75th anniversary of Second World War. And United Nations Security Council, we are going to be one of the non-permanent member. We are going to easily win this thing. I think as of now, if I'm speaking to you, this thing has already over, and I'm sure we are already in for 2 years, beginning from January 2021 to 23. For 2 years, we'll be part of this United Nations Security Council non-permanent member. And wheat procurement, government today said the procurement of wheat from the farmers has touched an all-time record of 382 lakh tons. And that's everything from my side, dear friends. I'll see you soon with daily financial news analysis. Enjoy your studies. God bless you all. Jai Hind.